Hello and welcome to Measured Thoughts. I'm Dave Reepstein, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Jeff Hayzlett, who is the Chief Business Development Officer and Vice President at Kodak. Jeff, thank you. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you with me this morning.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Anytime we can talk about Kodak, about marketing, we always like to be a part of it.
Well, great. In fact, let's start off and tell me a little bit about yourself. This is actually my first time to meet you.
Well, I always like to have some fun. I'm from South Dakota originally, but now I'm part of the New York scene in terms of activity.
That explains the boots?
Explains the cowboy boots. In fact, this is what we would call population density in South Dakota, just the two of us sitting here. There are more people in the stands in Indianapolis 500 the day of the race than our entire state, so I kind of make fun of that. But I'm now down the road a little bit, working at Eastman Kodak, a dream come true for me, for most marketers, because when you think about, brands, you think about companies. Kodak's one of those very, very iconic brands, and I was very, very excited about going for the company. I oversee all the marketing for the company worldwide from the corporate perspective, and we have 3 business units that are part of that, and we have special product groups that are part of that that we activate through. So I've got that group, and then in addition, so that's product marketing and public relations, corporate communications, public affairs, the gamut, and business development, which is the title. So we kind of think of my title very much like a CMO on steroids in terms of the activity. So it's a fairly broad portfolio of products, and then in terms of services that we provide throughout the business.
I've heard you described as a CMO on steroids.
Yeah, sometimes. I tend to be very, very active, certainly in the community, and a lot more energy. I'll give you an idea. Our CEO said when I joined the company, and he taped a video because he couldn't be at the event for my team, and he said Jeff's job is to create tension in the organization. So I think we're doing a fairly good job of that. You could probably ask my teams, but our job is to really go in and make change. And we've gone through some massive change at Eastman Kodak, a company over 130 years, and we've been going through a transformation.
So again, a little bit more about yourself. How long have you been at Kodak? What did you do before Kodak?
Been at Kodak for 2 years. Prior to joining Kodak, I had my own public relations firm, working in the visual communications industry, graphic arts, and also technology. I'd worked from everything with my partner used to own Comdex, and doing a lot in that industry, to representing a lot of printing companies, Kodak amongst them, Xerox, and some other companies that I've done work with over the years.
Was Kodak a client of yours?
Kodak was a client of mine over the years, not proceeding up to that period, and I'd helped sell some of the companies that Kodak has bought as part of this transformation. So it was just a nice, natural transition to join into. And like I said, I was so excited. I remember the first time I came into the company, I was, on the plane, wanting somebody to ask me, "What do you do? What do you do?" Because I was just so proud to be a part of the company. And I remember the young woman finally say, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm the new CMO of the graphic group at Kodak." And she said, "Well, who's that?" So I knew that we had a fairly decent, big job ahead of us in terms of reintroducing the company to a whole nother generation, because this isn't your father's Kodak anymore.
Right.
And we're in a totally different world than what we were 5 years ago.
So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Kodak. Obviously,
Sure.
Tremendous transformation that Kodak's had to go through. So sort of describe Kodak and where it is today.
Yeah, the best thing I could do is I was speaking at a group yesterday, and I said in the audience, it was a few thousand people, how many people have bought film, say, in the last few years? And 5, 6 hands go up. And then I ask how many people have bought a digital camera or have a digital camera on their phone? And every hand goes up. I said, well, welcome to our world. We invented the first digital camera in 1976. But our hubris of success kind of kept it in the background. So we still relied on the tried and true, the film, what was a big part of it. And you look at the business a number of years ago, billions and billions, well over $10 billion 5 years ago, and much less today. And so we've retransformed the company. 70% of our products today are digital. As opposed to 5 years ago, 70% of those were traditional products. 65% of our business comes from the commercial markets, meaning
65%.
65%. So when you think of Kodak, you typically think of a consumer-based product mix, and that's not the case today. We have 1/3 of our business, which is what we call the FPEG, which is our film group, entertainment group, 1/3 basically in our consumer digital group, and then 1/3 in our graphics group. So today we touch 40% of all digitally printed products in the world. Our consumer products are, the best in the world, typically number 1, number 2, or maybe even number 3, but typically number 1. And then we have the film products, which are certainly number 1 in the world. And in the entertainment industry, to give you a scope of that, every Best Picture that's ever won in the Academy Awards has been done on Kodak film. And then if we throw in one more mix, which I think your listeners and viewers will find interesting, is that 60% of the people that work for us today were not with us 4 years ago. So a complete transformation, and those who have been there have this transformation fatigue is the way we describe it. But we're really through it. Our CEO announced last January that we're done with that. Now it's time to move into what we call the new Kodak. You might have heard Kodak Moments. We call it the Kodak Momentum, the new Kodak 2.0, to give it a digital flair.
So I'm really shocked, if anything, by the 60% of the employees.
Yeah.
And so was that necessary in order to go through the transformation?
No, it certainly wasn't necessary. I mean, the people that are with Kodak are the smartest, brightest people in the world. I always joke about Rochester, but if you've ever been in Rochester,
I have.
I mean, it's very cold. I mean, it's so cold, people stay inside and we invent things. I mean, and we've been doing it for over 130 years. And the mentality of our team is just absolutely wonderful. Yeah, you couldn't find greater people to work with, and it's exciting. But as we made that transformation, it started to shift, and we brought in new companies. So we bought Cytex Digital Printing, we bought Creo, we bought some of the best of breed in those particular marketplaces to build up that piece of the business, and not just from an individual perspective, with a strategy around saying we're about make, manage, and move images and information. Now, whether that's in the business or it's in your personal life. So make, manage, and move images and information. So that's what Kodak is. It's in that visual communication. Everyone knows Kodak from that image, that photograph, that moment. And people even say today there's a Kodak moment, right? And we do that not only just for the consumer, but we're doing that for businesses. The Wall Street Journal is printed with our technology, for instance. With our plate technology for printing plates. As I said, 40% of all commercially printed documents in the world are touched by Kodak technology. So when you have that transformation, that's just a nice growth business. And Kodak was early on in seeing that this was a good growth business for us. It showed it in our last earnings, a 10% growth in our digital business.
Revenue growth.
Revenue growth, absolutely. We'd love to have the profit growth as well, but revenue growth, and that's where it's at. It's that pipeline growth. And if we look at some of our goals for the year, that's one of them.
So you've sort of touched on various pieces, but just what would be, if you could go through naming the top 3 to 5 products that you have, just to help familiarize.
Well, it depends on which particular marketplace. Obviously, in the motion picture industry, entertainment film, it's our film products, and that continues to be a very, very strong piece of our product portfolio. A lot of television shows are still done in film. Obviously, a lot of movies are all done in film. That's one. Our digital cameras are number 1 in the marketplace today. So,
Kodak,
we have so many different
Kodak
models.
has the number 1 market share in digital cameras?
Without question, it's the number 1. And it depends on which country or which region you're in. But by and large, we're in that category.
Number 1 globally?
I don't know if the number 1 for U.S. this last year. I know at Walmart we were number 1 vendor for the year this year, so it gives you an idea. But most people wouldn't think about that because a lot of it's tied just to the marketing, which we'll get into, and how you measure those things, which is important. But say EasyShare. EasyShare is a sub-brand for us, and so what's that mean? It's easy. And so a lot of people who have made that transition didn't know how to do it, and so what we said, we'll make it easy because you can buy the EasyShare camera, you can buy the EasyShare printer, you can get into those things. And then our graphics business, number 1 workflow, number 1 in digital products for the commercial print market. Inkjet, we just unveiled a new inkjet machine, which runs between 1 million and 4 million, prints 4,000 pages per minute, full variable color. It's offset class technology that we've just unveiled, first of its kind. So those are the products that we tend to lead with.
Okay. So let's talk about marketing and talk about how marketing sort of helps the company achieve its goals.
Well, for us, And for my team, or our team inside of Kodak, it's all about growth. I mean, growth, that's our number one priority. Number two is growth, and number three is growth. And
is that growth in revenue, growth in profits, growth in...
Well, first let's get growth in revenue. Okay? So let's do that first, okay? That's the key thing, because then, our Chief Operating Officer, Phil Ferrazzi, likes to say, you can be effective, we'll get to efficiency later, okay? Especially when it comes to marketing. Jeff, your team, you guys go out and be effective. I'll get you, then you can talk about more efficiency, which with measuring tools and some of those things will help us to do that. But so the growth is that. And then we'll look at, higher profit margins and gross margins. We'll look for products like that. So we'll promote different products that way. So we'll try to lead with our best. Those are some other things. Unit volume is a key for us, especially in some challenger categories. We announced a new inkjet printer. That inkjet printer is a challenger in the marketplace with the model, because the model is today, you buy a typical printer from our competitor, it's at $50, but the inkjet cartridges are $60. You know who they are. Ours is a model that says we're going to charge a fair price for the printer. It's $149, but the inkjet cartridge is $9.99 and $14.99 for the color one. And you get twice as much ink in it, twice as much in terms of the output, so you save up to 50%. Well, that's for us to be able to get unit volume, because it's all about growing the use of the ink. And we just think price ink stinks. We think it's a bad model when you've got to go behind a lock counter to get the ink at the store, but you can get the printer off the shelf. Something doesn't seem right with that model. So we're changing that model, and the result of it is we hit our targets for last year, and this year we'll double those targets. So we'll double the number of units, so that unit growth is big for us. So we'll look for marketing opportunities that give us that.
So I like how you said very clearly, it's growth and growth and growth, and that's marketing's job.
Without question. I mean, we're the champions for growth. Now, everybody needs to be a champion for growth. And one of the other things that we do is we're, as part of our employee engagement, rolling out a plan called FAST, which we kicked off, which stands for Focus, Accountability, Simplicity, and Trust, and that denotes speed. Because when you have this transformation and you shove all these people together in different companies and, quite frankly, different cultures, how are we supposed to operate? And so what we said we're going to do is we're going to do it fast. So what's my focus? What is it we're going to do? So everybody knows growth is our focus. Our accountability is what's the things that we must do as individuals. Simplicity is what rules do we have to get out, what tools do we need, and then trust is a healthy debate so that we can say, hey, I don't have to do it the same way every single time. And so we question those things, because as you grow and you see that you had systems that were put in place to do certain things a certain way, but you don't need those anymore. And I have a saying, even if we screw up, we'll do it faster. And so that's a big part.
So you learn quickly and you stop doing something.
Well, you certainly hope so. I mean, that's what you would hope so, because we've made this transition to a digital company. I mean, give you a good example. Recently, we stepped away from the Olympics. Now we'll be doing it. We've been involved with the Olympics since 1896. Love the Olympics. Think the Olympics is an absolutely wonderful way to be able to activate customers. But if you're a digital company, I can't wait every 2 years. Kodak can't, have the discipline of waiting every 2 years to do its major sponsorship every 2 years. So we have to look for different sponsorships to give us a better return on our investment and be able to, penetrate marketplaces a lot faster.
But you could have done the Olympics as well as do other sponsorships.
Well, maybe if you've got that big of a wallet, I'd be more than happy to borrow that from you. But that's usually not the case. You have to make choices, and I think that's what most marketers do. And quite frankly, I always go back, what's the data show? And the data shows me, how many rolls of film do we have to sell? How many cameras at X% margin do I have to sell to pay for, say, a $100 million sponsorship or whatever the price cost is? It's a lot. And when you look at it from that perspective, you say there's better uses of the dollar. And that's what, and I think that what we're going to be talking about mostly today is what do you look at, how do you measure it, and a good CMO, a good marketer, and any good business person, whether it's a very small business to a very large business, is going to make those decisions by looking at the data. What's the data show?
So I'm very much going to want to get into how you go about checking the accountability of that marketing spend. But just before I do, You describe marketing's role as growth. Would the CEO, you report directly to the CEO?
Absolutely, yeah.
Would the CEO say, that's what I'm expecting from Jeff and from marketing?
He's expecting that from the whole company. So let's be very clear. Every business owner inside of our company knows that's our mantra. Every employee, if you were to walk up to most employees, I won't say to everyone because we all know that you don't permeate all the way through, but if you were to walk into the leadership of all of the companies, all the different pieces, and say, what's our number one goal for this year? They'll say growth. Ask them the number 2, they'll say growth. Number 3, that's growth. Now, I've talked to our team in terms of the marketing side. We're going to be champions for that growth, and that's exactly what we say. We're here to leverage across all the businesses to impact the brand in order to drive growth, and that's it. And so much so that companies talk to me, or not companies, departments will come and talk to me and to our team about, oh, let's do this brand building. Let's do some buzz. And I said, if you talk about buzz marketing to me, buzz yourself out the door. And to be very polite, because it's all about activation. It's all about driving sales. I get the brand value, the uplift from the brand based on the sales. And brand is nothing but a promise to the customer and delivering on that promise. So if I'm doing great at sales, I'm giving them great customer service, I'm giving them new innovative products.
That will lead to brand.
We'll get the brand. And quite frankly, who doesn't know Kodak? I mean, that's the reason I came to this company. It's the most iconic brand there is. It's one of the, clearly one of the top most recognizable brands in the world.
Although the story you told about the young woman who's, you got to be careful not to let that slip.
Without question, yeah, because at that level we have slipped, and without question we have. And I think most people would say most people would not denote Kodak with the coolness of XYZ company. I'm not going to name who they are, but that we've not been that. We've been more like your father's and mother's Kodak. Well, we're going to shift. And if you look at our advertising now, you look at some of the things we've done with a Celebrity Apprentice, some upcoming product placements, which have been absolutely brilliant moves on our part, and I will say, because I've got such an unbelievable team who's making these decisions, and they're coming up with things. A great example, PGA. We just announced a PGA partnership where we will have a Kodak challenge. We will give away $1 million for the best 18 holes. And there's 18 holes, or actually 24 holes that we've chosen in the PGA's tournaments of 40. So 24 different holes that a pro can play. The best 18 out of those 24 will win $1 million. So we basically spread across 24 different tournaments, Kodak being a part of those tournaments, and they're being televised on 2 to sometimes as many as 3 different stations at a time of people playing that hole. Absolutely brilliant marketing.
Yeah, that's
and for a fraction of the cost. So we're doing things in innovative ways, and that's one we call OPM, other people's money. How do we activate around other people's money, activate around other events that give us a better return on our money?
I'm going to have to jump into that and figure out how you're getting your assessment of your return on your money. So you mentioned the sponsorship of this golf tournament. Mm-hmm. How are you assessing whether or not that's worthwhile?
A couple of different ways. Obviously, as I mentioned before, Kodak shifted more to B2B market. So from a B2B perspective, I can still do some things that are B2B and then have impact on the consumer market. Great example is PGA. So every time a pro steps up and hits that, hits that little putt or hits that shot off the tee, they're on the Kodak hole. So I'm getting that. I'm getting the signage that's there. So I'm getting the exposure, the eyeballs that are going to come with that. At the same time, I'm going to have hospitality tents that will be driving business with our customers who are showing up and want to be there. So say commercial printers, which is a big part of our market. They're big into golf. They're mostly small business owners up to about $10, $20 million. They're going to want to participate from that. We can sign orders that weekend. We can get people. We can do product demos. We can do all those things.
So is the way you measure it by orders signed?
That's a big part of how I like to measure things, and certainly our CEO likes to measure things. So why doing events where you don't have people showing up with contracts? So that's one side of it. We'll also measure the eyeballs, the exposure that we'll have through the signage and through the mentions on TV. We did the Celebrity Apprentice, which we did a product integration. Now we doubled sales the week after that. We didn't do anything else, so we knew that had an impact. We had 89 million viewership in terms of that, so we had a market share rating of that. It was so exciting, we got invited back to the finale to debate Gene Simmons live. We got to mention it. But we also got 4.4 mentions of our name per minute during the airing of that show of our name or of our product, not counting the value proposition which they talked about. Now, you say, is that a measurement? Without question, that's a measurement. No one that I know of in marketing or in television product placement has ever gotten that kind of response. That's basically saying Kodak every 13 seconds during the 43 minutes of airtime. Well, I don't know about you, that's a pretty good measurement. So it's as simple as that, and then you could do some much more in-depth measurements in terms of viewership and response rates. But in the end, it's about how many people actually walked into the store and bought the printer. And if we doubled sales the week after, I'd say that's a pretty good measurement.
I'd say that's a pretty good result. So by doing the sponsorship of the Celebrity Apprentice, sales doubled. And by doing the sponsorship of the golf tournaments, you've got orders going up as a result, and that happens on site. Not to mention just the overall exposure that you're getting.
That's a big part of it. Now, let me add on to that. We'll also do some activation. So why not go to a gaming company? Let's take the 24 holes, put them on a computer game, and let people play it. So now, if you can't show up and play at Pebble Beach, you can now play the hole. I'm not saying that's the hole we're going to have, but because we haven't selected all the holes. But I do know one hole. So if it's number 17 at the Buick, in Warwick Hills, then that's our hole, okay? You can't go to Buick and play that outside of Michigan because you'll never get there. But now you can play it, say, on a XYZ Game Boy or a Wii or whatever it might be.
And
so let's go do those things.
Be labeled Kodak.
Oh, without question. How about play the Kodak Challenge on those particular games? So we're working with some game developers to do those kinds of things. It's a great example. Now, hopefully by the time people see this, we'll have those things put together. But that's our goal. How about go up on the website, log in and have the scores of the whole from every day that's done sent back to you. You can measure from that perspective and then measure how people are following and participating, so you've got a social network that's going on. So there's a number of ways that you can activate around it. But our team actually has a plan, so we might be investing X millions of dollars in this particular thing, but we've also got a revenue goal that's tied around that activation to drive revenue and make money. So not just about product sales, but to use other people's money to activate in order to, basically pay for our marketing campaigns.
Now, actually, there's two different aspects I've got to pursue here. One of them is, it sounds like all these things that you're doing are more than paying for themselves. So I don't need a big wallet to do some of these other sponsorships. You said, hey, if you want to do the Olympics, you want to do these other things, you need to have a fat wallet. And the answer is, the more of these that I do,
they pay for themselves.
They
exactly
more than pay
right.
for themselves.
Now, in some cases, I will tell you, like most marketers that are in the corporations, were faced with cuts. And when you have a company that had the transition and the flip that we did, and certainly one of the biggest turnarounds in American history now. When I first stepped into the graphic side of the business, and we threw roughly 5 companies together, created a $3 to $4 billion business. They had this marketing department, this one. First thing we had to do is make sure, okay, how do these people all get along? What are the systems that we have? What's the one campaign? Does everybody have the same email address? We had to do those kinds of things. And then we trimmed the budget. We trimmed the budget up to 42%. In marketing as a cost savings by doing some of the system deployment that we're talking about. And then looking at it from one voice, one face to the customer, which is important. So you didn't have different salespeople, 5 different groups, 5 different salespeople calling on the same customer. It's insanity. So we worked on those things. We worked on our Marcom departments. We worked on our product marketing, getting systems in place so that we could have those things. So yeah, you do save money. And then when you put in these other kinds of OPM kinds of activities, then you're making money. And that's what that's about. It's a very innovative way to do marketing. So
clearly being more efficient makes plenty of sense to do. Yeah. But I would think, given we're doing activities that have positive return, you shouldn't be cutting your budget. So not now. Right. But when we first came in, absolutely. In fact, as I went through that with our management team, we had those kinds of discussions. I said, look, you take advantage. I'm cutting, or we're cutting now, but there's going to become a point where we're not cutting anymore. And now we're moving into activation where I'm saying, no, we can put more in, because now we can start to show activity. So, like, let's say, for instance, we ran an infomercial, which we did with our printer last year. Well, we'll do it again.
one of the best tools that we did to drive direct sales, without question. So what we did is, by measuring those responses, knowing what we had, now I'm saying, no, we need to double our sales there because of the response that we had. Or if we had a response, say, with the apprentice that was very positive, let's find another one. Let's find it in the right months that we want to have, because that was in, say, February, I think, is when we aired that. Well, the real season for buying most consumer products is September, or late August through December. Well, Whit and I want to have something along those lines to be in that time frame. So we'll look for a double hit, something to give us the push and then carry us through, and then really drive it home during that last 2 quarters in terms of our business.
Yeah, one of the questions that always comes up is, we run some type of event, sales bump up, we attribute the sales bump to that event. And as you said, there was nothing else really going on when you did the Celebrity Apprentice.
Yeah.
But the question is whether or not those sales would have already occurred without that. So whatever you sign up in the tent at the sponsorship, would those have already occurred?
You sound like my CFO, so that's okay, in terms of fun. But that's the key question, right? That's the age-old question that we always have to ask. But yeah, certainly, can I speed those up?
Right.
Okay. Can I accelerate them? Can I bump them a little faster? And my argument will be yes. Let me show you why. Now, and how do you know that? Well, you do it. You do in-store interviews. You ask people. You interview every 10th question that comes in from the infomercial. We do those things. You have to do those things, and then from that we'll be able to know, what the behavior is, and if we're driving that kind of behavior, did we speed them up? And then go back in and make the change. There's an old formula in marketing or public relations, and you're much more academic than I am, but I just use a simple one called.
You're much more public relations than I am. So go ahead.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So, but it's RACE. Research, action, communication, evaluation, and that's a model I follow today. So research in terms of knowing who I need to get to, how I need to get to them, what do I think will work, what's my action, what's my plan, communicate it, get it out, get it done, and evaluate it. And then guess what? Do it again. Because you're basically, this isn't rocket scientist kind of activity. Most marketing programs fail because most people don't effectively do them. And they don't do them again and again, and they don't apply those simple principles. If you apply simple principles of RACE, research, action, communication, evaluation, and loop it, and loop it, and loop it. I talk to our teams about being like the Curious George. As a marketer, I should not know the answer. I should be surprised by the answer. And I should use the market data, I should use the research, I should use my return on investment, I should use every tool that's at my disposal and a lot of gut to say, what's underneath the hat? And when I pull the hat off and I look at it and go, wow, that was a surprise. I learned something different. This is new. Oh, how can I make that better? Ooh, that was really bad. Let's don't do that again. But how do we make that different? And you go back. I go back to the old days, when I owned my own printing operation, and I had a printer, and I used to do mailings out to different groups, and I would try message A, message B, and message C. And I would take the postcards, the return business reply cards that I would have, and I'd take the first stack for Group A, and I'd take a little red marker, and I'd put that down the edge. Okay, that was for Group A. In Group B, the message was a blue marker, and then that one was C, was a green marker. And then I'd mail those, stuff those, and then when they came in, I'd stack them up, and I'd look at them on the side, and look how many red ones I got over the blue or the green, and based on that, I then altered my message. So that's a very early way or crude way of being able to look at my return on investment.
So do you have a lot of active experiments like that you're doing at Kodak today?
Oh, without question. We believe in obviously being printers and believe in the printed word. We're the biggest ambassadors for print since Gutenberg in terms of that activity. We like to make.
But in terms of experimentation,
without question, we check it all the time. Check it all the time. Yeah, we have a number of online tools that we use. We have some proprietary systems, especially on the consumer side, what we call Clearview, where we're constantly going back and getting response from our customers, because like Nielsen doesn't exist for us in those things. Or setting down, a good example, to even look at audiences. I recently sat down with an online partner that we're looking at. We have a Kodak gallery which has 72 million members on it, and we're looking with another partner, and they said, well, we have 40 million members. Look at the number of households, okay, that are in the United States alone, and then they were primarily a female audience. The gallery is primarily a female audience, affluent females. And so we thought, Jesus, this can be total overlap. But then when we ran the numbers, we found there's like 11, 12% overlap. So that tells us, wow, there's good potential for having those kinds of, those things available for us.
Earlier, I asked you a question about, whether or not you're getting incremental sales from some of your marketing efforts, and you suggested I sounded like your CFO. and I wanted to know your relationship with your CFO and what role the CFO plays with you in sort of negotiating budget.
We sit down, he and I sit down on a monthly basis, just to have lunch and do some of those kind of things. At a C level, we don't always get together as much as most people think. I mean, somebody was joking with me the other day, said, well, how many times did you, email the CEO and talk to him? I said, maybe 4 or 5 times, just because we're so in sync with where we're going. We just don't have to have a lot of that. We can, a lot of us can finish each other's sentences. And so the support is there. So when I, for instance, came to him the other day with something that was outside the budget, said, look, I'm going to need some extra money. It was like that, because the experience that we had somewhere else saw it, and he knows that I'll work to cut it somewhere else or make it up in somewhere else, and so we can go to him, but understands the need for the fact that it's now time to start investing in the brand, start investing in those kinds of activities. And if you show the numbers, I mean, if you have numbers, then it's great. Most CFOs they're always going to say they're all about numbers. They do nothing but numbers. They work with numbers. They'd rather deal with numbers than talk to people. So, which is great. Great. Well, you want those people. You got to have those people. So it's great to have that kind of perspective.
So there's sort of 2 sets of numbers. One is we did this activity, and here's the short-term impact. We sponsored Celebrity Apprentice. The week after, sales doubled.
Mm-hmm. So we show them those data.
So here's the numbers.
Absolutely.
Are there numbers or metrics or things that you use that are longer term? We're doing something that's going to help us.
Absolutely. It's without question. And the key thing is, do you have dashboards in place? Do you have the measurement tools? What are the things? And like most companies, I say, I wish we were doing those things better. And even when we're going to get really good at it, I still want to be better at those things. So we do those things and we build that in. We're in the process right now of deploying an EMM system throughout the company to be able to give us this broad reach. Because if you're spending $500 million or $1 billion in advertising, or quite frankly, your small business is 10,000 or marketing, when I talk about advertising, but marketing dollars, then you really want to know where your costs are and how you're using it. What are the campaigns? So an EMM system gives you the ability to track the campaigns, know what's in play, what processes they are in, and then be a better steward of the marketing dollars, which is
so. What long-term measures do you have right now?
Oh, it's always about growth. I mean,
so we've got growth. That's right. Sort of as a short-term one.
Oh no, it's a short-term and long-term, because you want scale. So I might be able to build something now, but at the cost of scale. And I from a CMO or CBDO perspective, I would not want that. So for instance, I'm working with a group, one of our business groups today, about gaining awareness, okay, efficient use of the marketing spend, okay, or another word is more effective use of the marketing spend, because I'd much rather be effective than efficient, and we'll get to effectiveness first. And then what items can I do now, right this minute, this quarter, that will give me scale for later on? Because why go out and build something and then and then it's over? It's a one-trick pony. So what can you do that you can? I call it step and repeat. So a marketer should be very good at stepping and repeating. It's a printing term, but means you set it up once and you do it many times, and that gives you the scale.
Some people would contend a long-term measure is one of brand equity, and we referred to brand earlier, and what I heard you say is, well, if we're generating volume and we're getting it out there and exposure, that's building brand. If I look at the interbrand ratings for Kodak, what I've seen is that Kodak, as we all know, Kodak's brand has gone through a lot of change. Is that a concern within the company? And do you regularly look at your brand value?
So I'm going to say, without question, I'm not acknowledging that the slippage is there. What you're seeing is a migration, which you're certainly going to have with a company our size. Sure. So as you shift from what has been a traditional company to a digital company, you're going to move that brand from over here to over here, or wherever that might possibly be. And so we have definite plans about how we're moving that. We have a brand framework in which we're moving that. And the Kodak brand has had and does have a great value just as a name. I mean, if I'm not suggesting we do this, but we could split that name off, sell it, and it would have a great value just as a name alone, much like some other ones that have been done. That's certainly what we wouldn't advocate do that. I'm just saying it has a great value. And so when you look at where we've been in trustworthiness, in image, and so forth, and you start to move more as an innovative company and shift, well, that brand value is going to change over time. And there's going to be a period where you go through some difficult times during that transformation, and that's what you're seeing today. But we're certainly actively tracking it, and we're actively driving it. And so there's a team that's very involved in our group that's driving on that brand value. And that's why we said before, one face to the customer with the focus that we have to have, and bringing all these different product silos that have been out there together as you make this new company. It's something you would normally see.
Yeah. Other longer-term measures? Do you have measures like of customer value?
Oh, without question. I mean, those are the
customer
absolutely
lifetime value.
Lifetime value. Do they recognize the ecosystem that we're putting into place in terms of the experience that they have? We're so much a part of people's lives and their businesses that will there be value with that? We think that there will be, and we certainly are driving to do those kinds of things.
So what has been some of the most effective analytics that you employ to help you understand your value of marketing?
A couple of different things. I mean, we have inside of our group what's called the Graphic Users Association. Just in our commercial print business that we have, which is at about $4 billion, we bring together an association around the world, and we have events with our customers where they bring in at their own cost a few $1,000s registration to come to our conference and tell us about our products. And they interact with our product marketing people and the scientists that are building the product and the code writers and the programmers, and they actually design the products right there. So that's a great tool for us, and then we can check and put that in progress. That's one. We have a print rave community, which is an online community which talks to us about the printing and what they like and what they don't like. We have those kinds of things. We have our big picture panel where we send out I think it's 2 or 3 of these a week, but over 7,500 users of where we track things and what they like, don't like. They tell us about the photographs. They tell us how they use photographs, tell us the way in which they use the product, and so forth. And there's lots of interactive kind of activities like that. I mean, but then you come out with new products like this is our new.
I was hoping we were going to get a chance to look at this. Yeah.
This is the brand new the ZI6, which is an HD pocket cam. Shoots HD, HD60, VGA, and still photography. And I've just got mine a few days ago, but I've shot tons of video on it already. But you learn different things. I mean, we think, okay, we got something that's very innovative. So like this is the USB port uploads.
I love that. That's so cool.
It's got a little app put on it, so immediately you plug it in. It's plug and play. There's no user manual with this product, so it's that simple. But you put that in, and it uploads immediately to your YouTube account or anywhere else that you want to have. But you start getting immediate feedback. Oh gosh, can you make the screen bigger? Can you put a light on it? Can you do some different things? How about a mic jack? Because we want to have citizen journalists that are part of it. So it's just awesome kinds of things that you get, and we get those. Other ways that we pull together. Well, we should probably answer questions. This is what's going to happen. People want to $179. You can get it at pretty much any retailer that's going to be out there. I'm afraid that's where it's going to go. From now on, I'm going to start putting tethering these so that we have that. But it's just an excellent product.
It's a very cool looking product.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, another group that we do is segment market groups where we have, not just panels, but we have actually advisory boards. So in the packaging market, which is a real big growth market for printing, we have a group that gets together on a regular basis.
So package market, that's where you print on package?
Yeah, package printers. People who print the labels on the bottle, people who print the packaging for this, or potato chips or whatever it might be. And so we sell the products that go into the makeup of those products. We sell the plates, we sell the materials, and obviously see some equipment and imaging equipment that's used in that process. So we sit down with those printers who are in that business, and then they talk to us about our products, what we do, what we don't do, how is our customer service, and so we have measurements and pieces that we put into place to have those kind of discussions. And then we have panels. I was just talking to Skip Cohen, who leads the wedding photography industry. Now you think, well, geez, what's that? I mean, what? But there are people who just do wedding photography, right? And of course, with Kodak, that's a big business for us because they're still shooting a lot of traditional as well as digital.
Those are Kodak moments.
Those are Kodak moments, without question. I mean, I don't know about your wedding, but I spent a lot of money on that. And my daughter's going to get married at some point here, and I'll spend a lot of money on that. And it's a fairly big expenditure. So these guys are, and these men and women that are doing this are really, really good. And so, part of to get feedback is I said to Skip, put together a panel of some of the thought leaders and that particular group. Let's get together and give me some chances. What should we be looking at? What shouldn't we be looking at? And so they help us build those systems and kind of give us the system requirements. Other tools that that we're looking to deploy.
So let me back you up
sure.
for a second, because this is a cool product. But what I want to know is what measures. How old is this product? How long?
It's not even out yet.
It's not even out yet.
So so this starts coming out in end of August, early September of 2008.
How are you going to monitor its success?
Total number of sales.
Total number of sales.
On this particular product, because what we've done.
Not awareness, not distribution coverage, not.
No, because we'll sell out. I mean, I hate to be that.
Why don't you produce
boisterous more? Because the next version will come out. Because it's the second that we start selling that one, the next one's already coming down the pipeline. And so we learn from this. So we're already learning. I mean, the fact that people walk up to me, oh, I love this, but can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? We get that data back immediately. It's going into the product specs. I'm over the weekend calling the VP of marketing in this area, and I said, give me the name of the product manager. I'm talking to the product manager. Hey, you got to do this. You got to do this. Then my CEO's doing the same thing. My CFO's doing the same thing. So that's the feedback that we'll get. Not to mention, we'll get directly to our product managers from the customers or from the interviews, from the picture panel. Our proprietary systems that we do. We'll get that feedback. The other things that I'll mention that we really like to do in terms of putting some stuff out. I'll give you a good idea about this. Is we'll start blogging about this. Well, I named a chief blogger, Jenny Cisney, who's Jenny's a young professional, but for one of the first female chief bloggers that
works within Kodak?
Works within Kodak. She's got complete rights to say anything. She disses on me every so often, which is cool. And then and she'll write about the product. And then we'll have our I say our nerds. We'll have our 1,000 nerds column. We'll have we'll write about this particular product, and people will give us feedback. We want that. We've just named a convergence media director, Tom Hoyne, and Tom will help us pull together the different things that we have to deploy our messages across different ways to get that feedback. People will start blogging about this, and we'll enter into that, and we'll get negative comments as well as positive. Well, these have been, it's hundreds of blogs and hundreds of comments that are coming in, quite frankly, almost every day, and I'm talking about hundreds. I mean, the Google alerts on my PDF. It's not on the market yet, but we showed this in July to the media and to the bloggers, and they just went gaga over it. So we have a good feeling. We know what the measurements are. We know what the past history is around some of our products. We know that this is going to be just a big hit without question. I mean, you're trying to put it in your pocket. Tells me so. The camera guys in the back are asking me for copies.
They're going for it. So you've got this, and we've talked about what measures it is you might look at, which is sales and and growth for sure. Who within the company is really responsible for measuring sort of the performance of marketing?
Well,
is that you?
No, well, certainly without question, it's me. But I'm beholden to the executive committee and to the CEO. And when I say the executive committee, on a regular basis, I meet with the executive committee and the team, key pieces of our team, and we present where we're based upon our promises around, remember what I mentioned earlier, the FAST program. So we've made a list of 5 to 6 promises that we're measured against. And by the way, each member of my team has 5 or 6 of those promises that build up into those 5 or 6, and each member of their team has similar types of promises. This gets back to the accountability, the A in FAST. And it's about driving those promises, because if I have a promise, it's like one of my staff members once said, Daddy, you promised to take me to Disney World. Well, that's different than saying, I thought we were going to Disney World. A promise is something that's much different. So we make a promise, and we measure ourselves against that promise. And we have a dashboard which we present to the executive committee on an ongoing basis. Every monthly meeting, we kick off our meetings with, here's our dashboard, here's where we're at, red, yellow, green, and we measure against those key promises that we have. And that's around sales, customer satisfaction, and a host of other things that we're measuring.
Sales and customer satisfaction. Is that dashboard shared beyond the executive committee? Is it shared throughout the organization?
So throughout the organization, but unfortunately, I don't have the same EMM system I'd like to have, so everybody's got it. So it might be done through an email today. Certainly like to have it to where it's first thing everybody sees when they come in the morning would be the dashboard, because those things that get measured, get noticed, and those are the things that you drive, and so that would be something that would be very, very good for us.
Is there anything that you're not doing you wish you were?
Oh, well, most of those, not so much around the measurements. We'll get better as we go. We'll get more efficient as we go. It's more around the effectiveness of what we're doing and how we're doing it. I'd like to do a much bigger and better job of driving around more activation calendars, in terms of, picking a couple events a year, picking a couple of things around the launches, and that we do it. I'd like to see the messages get better, so that when one product is pushing this, it has a halo effect on all the products. And that's the efficiency that we've got, which drives it'll get better and better as we drive this effectiveness.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff. I easily could have spent a lot more time, and we could have gone on and on for a while, but that's all the time that we have here today with Jeff on Measured Thoughts. So I do want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And good luck as you continue down your path.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.